Welcome to Veterans Memorial Hall. My name is Scott Lewandowski and I'm the museum director of this fine facility. It was built in 1903 at the request of veterans of the Civil War to honor those that served our country from Winnebago County. So please come inside. As you enter Memorial Hall, you come into our great hall, sort of the main gathering area. This building was built in 1903, again to honor the veterans of Winnebago County. It was dedicated by President Theodore Roosevelt. It's the first time that a president has come to Rockford, and he did it June 3rd, 1903 to dedicate this fine building. We are a memorial building, again, to honor the veterans. And one of the ways we do that is to tell the story of veterans. So in our main case here, we have an exhibit. It's a little sad because James Owens was from Lowe's Park, Illinois, and he unfortunately lost his life in Vietnam flying a helicopter. He was young. He died in May of 1969, and we do have his uniform, the story of James's service, how his helicopter went down. 2 months prior to that, he received the Distinguished Flying Medal for valor in an act he did to help save a whole bunch. I think there were like 5 guys in a platoon that were stranded. He made several trips going in to get them out of the hot zone, and then 2 months later he lost his life. So we're here to honor him. If you come in, we'll tell you more of the story about James. We also provide healing space and meeting space for veterans. So this case was a group, Rockford VA Peer Support Group. They come in here, they get together. This project was the mask that they were making to kind of help tell the story of what, how they see themselves and how they are trying to heal from their service. I'm proud of this case, but it's sad in a way that, you know, serving our country does have a long-lasting effect on the people that do it. So then we have a case of some dog tags and another memorial. This case represents the 20 veterans a day that are committing suicide. Again, we're trying to bring awareness and help them to heal. So now we'll go into this room. This is called the post room. It's our library. And I always like to say this building was built by the veterans of the Civil War. They petitioned the county government to build not only a memorial to them, as in a static statue or that, but a building that they again could use and could meet and come together and share stories. And this room, I always like to say, is the reason why they had the building built, because this was their meeting room. There's some artwork on the walls that talk about, that are the badges of the Civil War veterans, the GAR. We have the original stations that they would use to their during their meetings. And it was a very formal ceremony with a chaplain and an adjutant, secretaries, all stationed around the room. We are one of the oldest museums in Rockford, Illinois, and one of the things that happened, this case has items that were donated by a Dr. Van Horn in 1904. And it was such a sizable donation that the newspaper printed a list of all the items. Some of the interesting ones are piece of Grant's hair, some fringe from Ford Theater where Lincoln was assassinated, President Lincoln. One of the more kind of creepy kind of things was he had donated a skull and jawbone to Memorial Hall. and the veterans at the time in their wisdom put it on display. So it was in one of our display cases and basically from 1904 until 1984 when it was moved up to Greenwood Cemetery. So that's kind of a fun thing. This case has some items from James Kerr, Elias Cosper. They were, James Kerr was the commander of the 74th Illinois Infantry, which started in Rockford and marched off for the Civil War. Elias Cosper was the second man in charge. We have their muster roll over here and both of their names are on top. But one of the fun things about, again, having things is we have post-historian, which the Civil War veterans wrote down accounts of their service during the Civil War. And I like this one. You can see it's Prescott Talbot. Now Prescott Talbot, and this is in his hand, it was written probably around the turn of the century, 1900, 1903 when the building was built. Prescott was a drummer in the Civil War, a young lad. And one of the questions is, what do you think is the most important part of your service? And Prescott writes that the doctors did not remove my arm as they initially wanted to. He had convinced the doctors at the time on the battlefield not to amputate his arm, but they instead removed the fractured bone that happened on the battlefield, and it was allowed to heal. He does state that he had 3 bouts of gangrene in that arm, and it was the medicine back during Civil War times, especially battlefield medicine, was barbaric at best. I mean, they would, use a basic saw and saw off somebody's arm and then go and saw off another person's arm next to him, never sanitizing anything. And a lot of the deaths that occurred were because of infection and not the wound itself. But Prescott survived. We have a picture of him. We have his own words on his service. We have about 85 of those, and we have, in another case, attached the picture of the veteran and the post-historian with that picture. So you can come in, you can read that, you can see James Kerr's, and I'll tell you more about him and Cosper. Cosper was a great Rockfordian. James Kerr died on the battlefield. He was from Rockford, so there's not a lot of him moving forward. But Elias Cosper lived to an old age, and he had an impact in the city. So you want to come back out here, and we'll go across the Great Hall, and maybe as you're walking, you can kind of note the battlefields, the words up on top of our border here. Those are battles of the Civil War that had veterans from Winnebago County involved in them. This is Thomas Lawler. Stop in, we'll tell you about Thomas. This room we have artifacts, more modern stuff of veterans and their service. Sergeant Lara was in the first Middle East War. We are not a war memorial, we are a memorial to honor the veterans. So our exhibits talk about the actual veterans mostly. We do talk about some of the conflicts that they were involved in, but mostly it is about the veterans themselves. So there's some women's service, Gold Star moms. This case over here I always bring attention to because this one is dedicated to Major General John Borling. General Borling lives in Rockford. He's a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, and on his 97th mission he was shot down and spent 2,448 days as a POW. And a POW is a prisoner of war. He was in the Hanoi Hilton with John McCain. He's written a book of the poems that he memorized, but one thing I like to stress is that 2,448 days, maybe that doesn't sound like much, but he was shot down June 1st, 1966, and released March 15th, 1973. 3.5 years, and that's a long time. If you come in, I can tell you more about General Borling. Challenge coins, we could talk about challenge coins. That's a fun subject. And Veterans Memorial Hall has created their own challenge coin, which is for sale here as well. I would invite you all to visit our website, veteransmemorialhall.com, or like us on Facebook. Facebook tends to be a more active area with events and goings on. And I appreciate you allowing me this chance to show you around our building. Stop in and see more.